What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Gaming Nerd. It is the Christmas edition. And PARO, if you're out there, I've got one just for you. This is the voting system once and for all finalized and in a step-by-step process that I can share with all of you in such a way that hopefully you can understand and reproduce it. Now, I've been having stability issues with both my program and my entire rig, so if this goes down partway through, I'll be back, because trust me, I want to get this voting system out of the way, because I swear to God, it's been bugging me that I can't get this one. So, without further ado, we're going to go to step one, okay? Now, let's see, we'll go skip right here. I'm going to lock and save everything, lock the ship, prevent it from moving. Lights, I don't care, line of sight, why not? Turn over, disable crew AI so that nobody moves around. Oh, okay. Anybody ever notice the home button doesn't work on Barotrauma? That's so weird. Anyways, without further ado, here we go. So what we start with is a simple counter. Push the button and the counter goes up. This is very simple wiring. I wish I could, actually I can. You know what, screw it. Let's move everything in here into reach of the electrician so that I can show you the wiring as we go. And yes, there are a couple steps, guys. Bear with me. We'll get through it. I promise we'll get through it together. Come hell or high water, guys. Oh. Unless I can't friggin' get a little too much eggnog tonight. Alright, move these buttons up to something more reachable. Oh, whoops. Touch something. There we go. Buttons up to there. Let's see if we can get through this. All right, so step one, we have a simple incrementing counter. You push the button and the number goes up. You'll notice here, there's my screwdriver, come on. The button goes into the signal 1. The memory component that it feeds into is also the signal 2 to the addition component. And the out from the memory block goes into, this case, the text display. Let's see, okay, going into here now. You'll notice here we have a signal check component with a target signal of 5 and an output of 0 with no false output. What this means is that it's constantly checking the memory value for the number 5, and as soon as it gets there, it replaces it with a 0, right? Notice you're going to have to set this to 1 higher than whatever channel you want to get to, because if it always goes to 0 immediately, nothing else can happen on that channel. So if you have 9 channels you want to monitor, set the signal check component to 10, or better yet, over here, put the value in this memory component and then set the memory component to the target signal of the signal check component. Now you have a variable value that you can change. So see, every time it goes to 9, it goes to 0. You can see there's a quick, very, very brief second that it goes to 10, but that signal check block does its job and very quickly. Notice we replace this with an 8. We can only go up to 7. I'm going to replace this with a 50, and I'm not going to sit here and click that many times, but suffice it to say that this is how you adjust the number of the maximum reachable value on the fly. Now, what if you don't feel like clicking through all those numbers one at a time? So we're going to sit here, we're going to set the pulse to 1, and our memory signal here is set to 10. And watch what happens. Now, okay, you can see the wiring here. The oscillator goes into here and comes out of here. Goes into the addition component just like the button did before it. But the button sets the state of the relay. Now the relay starts its initial life at 0, otherwise this oscillator would be feeding numbers in there already. But it starts its life in this system as a setup of 0. When I hit this, it's going to increment through the middle rate of whatever this oscillator is doing, right? And then when it gets to 10, look what happens. We've got the signal check block wired to both the set state of the relay and the memory block of the component. So whenever it reaches 10, not only does it reset that number back to 0, but it turns off the relay for you as well. Boop, so that increment stops happening. Now, what is this useful for? Well, let's just say we have a lot of Wi-Fi channels that we want to go through. And let's say they all start with the number 100 and they go up through channel 1 through there, right? So channel 101, 102, 103, 104, etc. If I want to speed this up, we can set this like 5, right? And then it goes up to that fast, right? Or you can set it to 30. I think probably the 30 is the fastest amount you want to go. The game runs at 60 frames per second, so Anything higher than 30 and your Nyquist problems, or Nyquist effect starts rearing its ugly head. Now, I'm going to put this back in a button here for a sec because I want you to see what happens. If we feed this value, right? So we've got a counter over here, max channels over here. We've got the channel offset of here of 100. And we feed it over here to this Wi-Fi component, right? Notice it's set channel. It's not going to signal in, it's going to the set channel, right? If I switch over to the captain, okay, I've got 9 numbers over here, right? This is channel 101, I think. Yeah, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109. And each one of these channels has its own value. This is going to be our voting system, right? This guy's voting for number 3, number 1, number 4, number 1, number 5, 1, number 9. There we go. 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 9, 2, 6, 5, 2, 5, 6. I can't remember if I got that backwards or not. Anyways, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, shout out to the nerds. Going back over here. So we go through here. Now, instead of incrementing through the channels, pay attention to this one. This is that's a 3. That's channel 102 is a 1. Channel 103 is a 4, 5, right? And it goes back to 0 again, right? Notice there's nothing on channel 100 because that's my offset. All right, so we have channel 101 as a 3. Now, my initial thought over here was that I wanted to collect them all together, right? So this one is the same thing, only now what we're doing, see, I've compacted a little bit over here, right? Instead of what we're doing, I fed it into a concatenate block, use this as like a signal and hold, right? This isn't important as much because we're not going to wind up using this, but pay attention to what happens here. Okay, if we start reading the values from these Wi-Fi channels and just start feeding them into the concatenate block, what happens, you get the same number over and over and over again for an unreliable number of frames, right? So it might happen that you read channel 101 3 or 4 times before it gets to channel 102. So what this does is the signal check block, it waits for its target signal coming from this thing, and it outputs whatever, what's this output here? Hang on. Oh, it's the channel. So yeah, if we look at this, no, I lost my screwdriver. Here we go. The Wi-Fi component signal out is the output. Okay, so whatever's coming out of that Wi-Fi, the same one that we got over here. So this, in this case, it's the signal coming from channel 101. Pardon me. The signal coming out of the Wi-Fi channel is the output of the signal check block whenever it receives a delayed output from this Wi-Fi. So what's happening is that this whole system here is changing the channel of the Wi-Fi, and then briefly, as in 0.02 seconds later, it briefly, for 1 frame, because remember, this is coming from the oscillator, and it's only 1 frame at a time, it passes that signal from the Wi-Fi channel through to the concatenate block, which is looping with the memory block, right? So there's a memory component, and there's a signal check block. So you'll see, there's all of our votes all together. But then I realized, and so you can put this thing in, I had a regex for this, but you can increment all through all these channels, and what this is here is that this signal check here is that if this one's a 1, then it outputs a 1 to the plus, and if this is a 2, hang on, oh, I can't reach that high. Anyways, this is a 1, this is a 2, it's looking for a 3 and a 4 and a 5, and every time that number comes out, these increment, and there's your tallies, right? But this, every time you want to add a channel, you have to wire it in, and after a while, that starts getting tedious with all of these relay blocks. So, what I've done, it introduced another series of Wi-Fi components. These are on the 200 channels, right? If you go, this is 201. And what this does is that this reads from the oscillator block, it goes to your Wi-Fi channel, and it reads the value, and then it assigns it a 200 increment instead of 100 offset. It's a 200 offset, okay? And then if you voted for a 1, it goes to channel 201, which is this one over here, see, 201, and it increments this one by 1. What happens is when you increment through all the channels, it totals up all the tallies over here. I like this one because, let's just say you want a spam vote, say vote number 1, you put in a 111 or 111 or 1111 or something. This old method over here would have interpreted that as 4 votes for 1, but this method would offset that to channel 211 or 311, depending, 1311, depending on which one you chose. Now, that's my broadcast for the evening, ladies and gentlemen. PARO, Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Stay nerdy and have a very nerdy new year.